Al's favourite tune. Get around it.
Yeah, go with the road soundtrack.
I don't know how long to get this music going for. What do you reckon?
Just a nice little fade out.
Yeah.
As long as you're just jamming.
As long as you jam. It goes for, it's got another 47 seconds. Probably cut it away.
Wow, yeah.
Well, that was pretty, that fade out. I probably could have done a better fade out on that one.
So what are we into? Is this episode 2 or episode 7 or where are we at?
Well, I mean, we've done 15 on our own. So
Yeah, we needed the practice.
yeah, but we needed Big Fedora to come in here and work out what his name was going to be, and actually needed to buy a fedora. So we
Officially
could be part
number
of
2, podcast number 2.
I do have the fedora with me.
it. Yeah, he does.
It looks great.
Yeah.
I can't wear it with the actually.
You're just wearing it in spirit. Yeah, that's better. It's sitting on the back of your head.
Have a look.
That's terrible. Hang on a minute. Oh, I would have had hang on. Too late. I will get better at that. At least I got the right button this time.
Much better.
So can I just start off by saying what
Thanks
I
for
said
being here.
earlier to Al?
Oh, yep.
We were just recording some video. Ooh,
Ooh,
what's that noise?
Cracking a savvy, I think.
Oh, savvy, to get me up and about this early in
Delicious.
the morning.
What are you doing with that face? You're on a podcast, mate. And you don't even want your head on this.
Wasn't for the pod. It was for you.
We'll just impose a little fedora icon whenever.
Well, it was highly
This
effective.
video.
I liked it.
But whilst we were recording some stuff, like some content for the Tony Robbins stuff, Al, unbelievable on camera. What we were joking about it and whatever, but you kept getting derailed by Burso, and you just stuck to your guns. One take, so that'll come out later. But one take, it was really inspiring. And like while we're trying to figure out how we're doing everything, looking to you as someone that's pretty professional in doing what they're doing, it's admirable.
Thanks.
Well, thank you, mate. You didn't see how
how'd you
many
feel on
times I practiced it in the mirror last night, but
Again,
it was good fun.
Adds to your professionalism. Unlike Burso, very unprofessional.
He's a protagonist of
Why
the
are you looking
group.
at me like that?
Yeah, well,
We're on a podcast.
I feel like you say more by not saying stuff, but like you're like, Al, I just want to say all the good things that you did. Am I getting feedback? No. If you got nothing nice to say, I just
What
want to
about the jazz hands and the spirit fingers? Was that
Yeah.
good?
Yeah, I loved it. Tony would have been proud of
It's
that.
possibly the hardest thing I've ever done.
So is that our segue into what we're talking about today?
Yeah, may as well. There's a segue for you.
That was way better.
Oh, there's 2 buttons I'm aware of at the moment. 3. There's the intro music, there's the dream music, and then there's the laughing up the top. And then one of them is a badum-chew, but we don't really have that many good jokes, so I'm not sure where that one is just yet. Right, so Tony Robbins and the professional Al.
Why are we talking about Tony Robbins?
Well, because you went and did 12 hours of the best with him, which is funny because usually you're supposed to do 12 hours in one day, but 12 hours over the 4 days.
I don't know. I reckon 12 hours virtually was probably harder than doing 12 hours in person.
I think it's also, like it still gives us a chance where we're not, like you can still tap out, like you can still sit in the corner. You can leave your like your computer screen off, and if you're just sitting there not doing anything, they'll still they're not going to put you on the screen. They're not going to put you on the spot. Whereas like we were saying beforehand, before I started smacking my mic around and hitting the table, like if we were actually there at the event, we couldn't have hidden, and you would have had to get around it. And then because if you're not participating, then you're actually the one you look silly. It's like when you go to a concert and everyone stands up and you're like, oh, I can't be bothered standing up. But then if you're not, now you're just the one sitting down. Everyone's like, you're right, mate, get up.
Yeah, look, it was definitely, you could be as evasive as you wanted, and I've said to you that I did like a kind of knockoff Australian version of Tony Robbins a few years ago for like a business coaching thing, and it was all the same, getting up and about and, turn and hug the person next to you, and I just made some excuse that I couldn't sit down, and I went and stood in the back corner, but the point being that when you're there in person, unless you make some ridiculous excuse, you have to get involved.
I think it's also I don't know if you've done anything Fed, but do we call you Fed, Fedora? What are we going to go with?
Go with whatever.
We're still working on what your name's going to be.
Pretty much.
What about the ghost?
I like Fedora.
Yeah, no, Fedora works. So many syllables and such. Such a useless title. But like if you go and do something, it's like if you have. I find pre-workout and stuff now, like I'm probably that immune to caffeine now that I'm just doing it for the sake of doing it. It's like it's a habit, but it still makes me feel up and about even before it's actually kicked in. And I was actually, I'd sent you a couple of videos when I was watching the Tony thing, Al, and I was like taking the piss, like just, doing these ones, jumping up and down, moving my hands around, just like taking the piss. But even then, you can't help but be up and about when you're actually doing that. And it was funny doing it and then going, I actually understand now because I was taking the piss out of it. I'm actually feeling a lot more because your heart pumps, you're doing this and doing that.
It's really that physiological response, isn't it? If your body's moving and getting involved, you kind of can't not be part of it.
Yeah, and that's obviously the idea behind it, which is why, and he's obviously honed his craft like time and time again, but I don't know if you've done any of these sorts of things before. Did you watch any of his Tony things, Ed?
No.
Just straight up, not
interested. You've just seen the short videos of me cringingly going through
I watched the highlights.
Tony Robbins.
But you know what it reminds me of? The movie Yes Man.
Yeah.
It's very got that vibes. So I've seen Yes Man, so I've pretty much seen the Tony Robbins 12 hours.
That's pretty true, actually.
But I feel like it's for people that need it or want it, whereas we're kind of people that are pretty skeptic and, imposters, and we kind of find it hard to sometimes fit into these kind of groups. So I feel like people that want it would probably take out more than what we could. But then once like you said, once you actually get involved, you think, there is value in this, and there's messages that he's kind of putting out into the universe that resonate with people no matter what. You just have to be willing to listen first.
Yeah, and I think that's something I really took away from it. It's, people might say manifesting, optimism. There was that book, The Secret, years ago that people got all into.
I'm a man for that.
Yeah. But really, optimism I was pretty skeptical of, but now people talk about, optimism is just orientating yourself toward like an outcome. And I think that's pretty true. Like if you talk about things positively or you move forward to doing them, they're more likely to happen because you're setting up the chances that those sort of things can actually occur. But like I said before on a little video, it's more if, the people, they flash them up on screen through the whole thing and they're just in their living rooms dancing and, jumping around. But those sort of, woo-woo type people, I have no doubt that it can make a complete transformation for their lives because they are invested in it. They're feeling it in their whole bodies. And he reiterates the whole way through. That's why every 10 minutes they get you up and jumping around so that you're experiencing it through your body. And I'm sure that does work for those people. I just, in the virtual setting, although I did participate and get involved, I wasn't like, both feet in, let's let this fucking change my life. So
And I think that'll be something that we struggle with the whole way through, like trying to do stuff. Like, for example, doing something like an open mic night. Like you'll probably have to commit to that because you might be you'll be on a stage doing whatever. So you'll be like, oh, I don't want to look like an absolute fool here. I'm going to have to try and actually have some buy-in. Whereas the more stuff you can do passively, where you can just sit in a corner or sit in the background or whatever else it is, then you'll take the easy out. It's like you've been in a training wing. When people turn up and they're just not interested in training, they'll sit around, they'll do whatever, and the training's terrible. So
you have to nominate them to do a recap of yesterday's learning or something just to get them engaged. And
and it's funny having, like I was training wing in another unit, but it's amusing being in the training and then having to try and get people up and about, and you basically turn into the Tony. So you have to try and get people to buy in. You have to get them motivated. You have to get them to find their reason for being there, and then try and motivate them to get involved, because the more they put in, the more they get out of it. And it's funny that we know all this, and then when you watch Tony, you're like, I'm still not committing, mate. And there's no one even watching me. So it's like, why am I not getting up and about? Why am I and I told you just before, so I listened to some of the bonus one, finishing it, driving over here today, and you haven't heard this yet, Fedora. A lot of this morning's one was all mantras and actually yelling stuff out and, and experiencing it through your body. So whilst driving along the freeway today, I was doing all of the mantras. I am wonderful. I am powerful. I am a leader. And then I said that a tradie in his ute was overtaking me, and I went all meek for a few seconds while he went past. And then I'm like, I will take over the world, all this sort of stuff. But you know what? Like, I got here and I was up and about. Like, there's no doubt that it works. I hate doing it. It's something like not going to be easily replicated every day, but
it works. That whole body involvement, there is just something about it. So
there's other people have like all those motivational quotes on the wall, or they have a whole bunch of post-it notes where they talk about what they're grateful for, and they're all about practicing gratitude and those sorts of things. It's the second time I smacked my knee doing this thing.
And he's the one to chip us first, yeah? Don't.
That wasn't deliberate,
Before
mate.
we start, don't put your cup down too heavy. And first person, Verso.
Well, I mean, don't also smack your knee on a table and then get chastised for it afterwards.
it's good because we're showing how poorly we started out, and if we just improve one thing in each episode, by episode 9,000 we'll be probably acceptable.
Mate, 2 out of 3 podcasts so far I've smacked my knee on this table, so I'll be flipping it by the end of this session.
Mate, I want to take us back to the start actually, because I didn't. Back into our dream world. I didn't volunteer and just decide to attend 12 hours of a Tony Robbins seminar, mate. So what's this whole concept? Why did I do that, and what's this about?
Well, so I was like, we talked about it before, but it wasn't on this. It was on the when we were shooting a video for our YouTube channel that's going to explode and let us all retire. But so basically the challenges are we're both reaching. I mean, I say reaching. I'm past 40. You're almost at 40. Old Fedora over here is what? You're 23.
33.
Yeah.
33. Come on.
We're showing him all the mistakes of early middle age.
Yeah, except he's the one with like 3 kids, wife.
I'm supporting
house,
2 people in their midlife crises, all right?
Exactly.
That's what a good mate does.
You're trying to get ready for, you're like, oh, God, is this what happens when you get 40?
Old mates, new mates.
Yep, true. But yeah, so, I mean, we're obviously at a point now where we're pretty much the highest demographic for suicide amongst other things, especially with the veteran thing. Like it's weird that you go from, and I watched the thing on Swiss 8 the other day where you literally go from being the lowest demographic for suicide when you are in the army to the day afterwards you're now at the highest. It's such a bizarre thing, and nothing's changed really, except for
does
your
being
job.
Straight single males like level all that out, or does that privilege not come into play with this category? Way to
just cancel the podcast before we even started it, mate. But yes, we are definitely higher up than everyone else. Single dads obviously is another add on. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of reasons why people our age neck themselves, but the idea is that we don't want that to happen anymore, and a lot of that is because we're so set in our ways that we don't try new stuff. We don't get new mates. We don't do, we don't try new sports. We just stop playing sport. It's like, why do we do that? A lot of it's because people become dads, and they sit there and they're like, oh, well, I work and I come home, I look after the kids and I do this and do that, and they have no time for themselves. And then when their kids go to school, now they're like, I don't really have anything for myself. But, when you're young and you're in your 20s or whatever, you're like, oh, what's that? Lacrosse? Yeah, cool, I'll play that. What's this? I'm doing canoe polo. I'll do that. And you're like, yeah, let's go to a jazz night or a trivia night or whatever else it is. Once you get into 40, you're like, do you want to go do Tony Robbins on your own in your bed? You don't even have to get out of bed and do it. And you're like, nah, I wouldn't have thought so. So that's the idea, is to try and get us to do stuff that we normally wouldn't do. Actually go out there and do stuff, meet some new people, like you were doing it yourself with your network, the business networking thing that you went to, like stuff like that. Like some of them will obviously be funny just because it's for me and Fedora to laugh at for you. And if you can find something that you just be like, hey, Burs, I want you to eat properly for a month. Like that'll be, I dare say you guys will find that. What are you nodding your head at, Fedora?
I've got something in mind.
Oh, really?
For you. Bloody oath.
Because you're probably one of the most challenging people to find good challenges for, but we've got to make sure it's not all softballs for Burso.
Yeah, it's what I've got in mind is, like, for people that don't know Burso, he's lived.
Oh, here we go.
Some lived experience, corporate world, lived experience. Like, can't go into it, but he's done a lot. He's my sheriff.
Oh, here we go.
Anyway,
God.
that's a story for another day.
We're going to need some context to that, I think.
No, we're not.
No, it's not that we don't want to. We can. But, I think for Burso, challenging him with something physical is more rewarding for him.
And
he loves doing hard runs.
I've seen this guy
a medium run.
dressed up in G-strings and all this kind of stuff just for fun. Like, that's not going to scare him.
Is this just going to be you sledging me this whole thing? Is that what you're here for?
Marathon in a G-string?
The G-string part's
one's
not
a challenge, one's just
exactly.
for
One's just for
entertainment.
fun.
Yeah. But I think going back into what you're saying about like supporting each other and hopefully inspiring others in our kind of demographic. It'll be interesting to put things forward to inspire others. And like tying back into the Tony Robbins thing, he just gets you up every 10 minutes to get active.
Yeah.
So, and we all know if you're feeling shit, you're in a bit of a rut, your mental health's a bit off for whatever reason, you get into the gym, you go for a run, you go for a walk, all of a sudden everything's changed, and there's a lot of study and science behind it. But I think that's something that we can really use as well. You know, sometimes for you it's a mental thing getting up doing Tony Robbins, but maybe for like Burso or myself, a physical exercise is like, it's a goal that needs to be achieved. It's not something that's easily attainable, even a half marathon. Anyway.
So are you part of this?
I guess I am now.
Well, if you're going to throw them out there, mate, it's like the drinking game. It's like you can't throw it out there without it coming back at you.
Well, and I think Fedora has to be accountable as well, because for me, the overarching key to this is that it's about accountability to others. And this was, you know, like I've had to have time away from work. And one of the things that really helped me through that time was when other friends made me accountable, getting out, doing fitness and going to things. So really we're going to be able to use the power of the internet and our imposter community to like doubly leverage how much we'll have to commit to this stuff. But that's for me is the message is, you know, if you know someone who's not getting out, getting involved in things, then take it upon yourself to go and pick them up or enroll them in a 10K run or some sort of event. Maybe Tony Robbins comes to Australia, we'll get a whole posse together to go and do the in-person thing. But yeah, I like to think about it that way, that I'm not great at self-starting or seeing things through. I've actually gone through a bit of a period where I'm quite a quitter when things are just up to me. But if somebody challenges me or I am accountable to them to go and do an activity, that's when it really works for me. So that's the value for me.
I was going to go with as well with the challenges, like things are going to pop up that we just jump on, and that's all good and well. But I think we should also have like some. I mean, a lot of the spontaneous ones are just going to be like taking the piss when something turns up. But if we do have like a midterm goal, like something we want to achieve by June, and then maybe something by the end of the year, you know, like that way, because like for example, if somebody does want to say do a marathon, I can try and do one next weekend, but realistically, it's the organisers
just get Goggins in the headphones and it'll happen.
But you know, like the event will be over and people will have left, so it'll be only you two blokes there the day afterwards with me limping in. But you know, like actual large goals like that, if we're going to do challenges, I think we can outline some of them. So if we start thinking about some long term things where we do it.
G-string and a fedora on stage.
Yeah. Well, the G-strings are pretty
spray
much
tan.
Yeah, well, the G-strings are pretty much standard for up there, so that's not really that far out there. The fedora is probably different.
I feel like there's a trend happening already that I just don't want to see.
You know, you know what we need to do as well? We're going to have to get a fedora sponsor.
Possibly.
That'll be something you need to look into.
Well,
Savvy are sponsoring us.
I was going to say
they're mad for us.
I've got a Savvy can in my hand right now, and it's pretty delicious.
Well, I'm actually.
It's got me up and about.
We'll keep talking him up, and we'll have him on.
Yeah,
I'm telling you,
the CEO will come on board.
I was up at 5:15 this morning. 2 kids, a new puppy, a Labradoodle. I was feeling pretty foggy. I got here, had a Savvy. Fucking, I'm on top of the world.
I just want to acknowledge your courage for telling us you've got a Labradoodle as well.
It's supposed to be this one.
No crash, 0 sugar.
You're literally just reading
natural.
Literally just reading them the menu now.
What about our little imposter community? Can they challenge us to do things that they have to come and be part of as well?
Well, at the moment, it's just the 3 of us. So 100% of the people in the imposter community are allowed to do it.
It's growing, exponentially every day.
100%. It's really blowing up. I was really surprised with the support we've got so far.
I reckon though, if someone, like if you want to give us a challenge that you're going to come and take part in, or something that they want to be made accountable to do, if it's a bloody good challenge, I reckon we'll get around you and get involved.
100%. I would love to see other people calling each other out. Like, I don't know if we're going to have an Instagram or whatever else it is we're going to do. It depends how bored Fedora gets if he wants to get involved with running a whole bunch of stuff like that. But, like if you see people going, hey, mate, like we're like, oh, this is the new challenge for Al, and then people at the bottom going, hey, we should make Fedora do this or whatever else it is, like that tagging your mates in there. That, like, I'd love to see a bunch of lads tagging their mates in it. And then if they go out and actually do it, like open mic nights or whatever else it is, and they get up there. I'd love to see some people crash and burn at an open mic.
Yeah.
Just seeing some
all
videos
200 people there are all from imposters challenging each other.
And let's be honest, like...
Geez, that'd be a terrible night, wouldn't it? A bunch of lame comedians a night.
Like you said before, some blokes just don't have friends because they've been tied up in a marriage, they've burnt all their bridges, and then they're kind of like, fuck, how do you make friends again? They might reach out to us and say, hey, can we catch up and we can be those initiating to get them to do something to then start exploring, getting out. I don't know, you did something with like bushwalks, is that right?
Stand Easy.
Yeah, well, the Stand Easy was just around, like again, for me, I had people dragging me out going on multi-night hikes and things like that. And at that time, I could really only detune when I got out in the bush and there was no other stimulus and my phone was turned off. So that was purely, giving an opportunity for other people to come and...
That's Al's brand new phone just smashed on the ground.
Just derailing every part of this that we can with additional sound effects.
I've only got 8 buttons on here with sound effects, but we've made about 15 other ones.
But yeah, I mean, the benefits of that is that when you've got a group of people doing stuff, exactly that, like someone on their own can come and join in the momentum of those things. And it ties in exactly to what you said, Burso, about our demographic, our sort of age is that, you know, once some of your friends have been married and have got kids, those opportunities to hang out with mates, they sort of, they really thin out. So, you know, these challenges just might be that exactly, is giving people a chance to come and engage in something they don't have access to.
I don't even know that the challenges fade out. It's more we just don't go to the effort anymore. You know, like there's every reason we could have gone and played table tennis over the weekend or pool or whatever. Like if we actually made the effort, then we'd do it. But I find, and COVID probably had a lot to do with that, where people just started living at home, and that was as far as we went. We got used to only being within 5 k's of our house and all that sort of thing. So I think. And then even 2023, everyone's just sort of, what are we doing? Are we still in it? Are we out of it? Things are going to change. What are we doing? Excuse me. You know, whereas now I'd like to think in 24 where people are like, all right, let's go back to being humans again. We'll start hanging out. We'll go and see each other, catch up with people that we haven't before. Because sport's hurting everywhere. Like pretty much every sporting agency is really struggling. Referees is a real dying thing. And you can't play sport without your referees, so that's another thing that's been an issue. But even if you get out and you volunteer and help, and so park runs are every Saturday. Those things are all free. You can turn up and do that. People do walking at the end; they just walk the course and stuff like that.
It's a good selfie of you doing a park run with the frame around it.
Yeah, with my middies out.
Actually, I reckon that. Actually, I've already successfully challenged him to do something that he didn't want to do.
Yeah,
that photo of the park run to get you up on social media, you were very uncomfortable doing that.
Yeah, well, I was also uncomfortable running the 5Ks before that. that I actually turned up late for, so I didn't have to do the run. And you're like, no, we'll just do it without it. We don't need to do a timer. And I was like,
you even got sledged by people doing that, didn't you?
Yeah,
that's pretty amusing.
It's pretty standard though that I get sledged by people.
But put it by me, especially. But to put it into context, this guy's also ran for federal government in Australia. And he seemed pretty comfortable doing that. So this is why I say when you think of a challenge for Burso, it's got to be something pretty special and hard, because he'll just throw his hat into whatever he wants. But then taking a selfie out and, you know, in a park somewhere gets a little bit, ooh, not me.
Isn't it funny? But maybe that's because, so if we hone in on things that are about you, is that what's going to make you uncomfortable? Whereas like running for...
Like I'm going to run you through what's going to make me uncomfortable.
Running for office is like you're doing that for others. So maybe we've got to make him uncomfortable on the individual level.
And document it.
We'll have a brainstorming separately, Fedora, and we'll...
Sounds good.
Oh, right. Okay, we're already teaming up in this, are we? Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, well, I think you've got us covered already, so...
Obviously, other challenges for us would be try and have subscribers or try and have listening hours or different hosts and stuff like you were saying, like when we were talking beforehand, trying to get the Zero Limits guys. So Al wants me to go on Zero Limits, and then I was like, why don't we try and actually get Matt? Is it Matt?
Yeah, Matt Morris. Yeah,
so Matt Morris, we'll try and get him on our one. Trying to get a sponsor, for example. Like these are
Matt, if you're our listener, can you have Burso on? He'll be an incredible guest. He's lived a very interesting life story. and then give us throw us a freebie and come on ours.
Ask him about the sheriff.
You need to write that in.
Well, the other thing I just think on maybe the long-term ones too, especially if we get some suggestions from some of the listeners, is maybe we'll, throw something out, try and get a sponsor on board for the big events, and we can really make it a big event. We can do some video and some YouTube, and if you're listening, we can make it worthwhile for your business if there's something you want to get behind as well.
Well, I mean, we can't at the moment. But in the future,
remember,
when we have 20.
We will.
We
make
will.
it.
Sorry.
Yeah, Tony's. It's
like
you didn't even attend the seminar.
And I didn't.
It's like you just did these few little short clips of you. Like
I got a 2-minute recap, and I'm all on board.
Yeah, okay. You still didn't watch any of it though, did you?
No, because I didn't have to.
No, because you just watched.
Because Al did it all.
Yeah, you just watched Al.
I will.
If Tony comes, if we have to go in person, all three of us go in person though. I want that. I want you to both look at me right now. Sure. That's the undertaking.
100%.
Yeah. Events we may as well attend.
I think that's a given.
So if we actually
YouTube
go out,
is like events and activities.
Yeah. So the actual challenges, I dare say, we will speak about them beforehand on the podcast, and then we'll talk about what things we're concerned about, what we're like, I don't really want to do this because of this, and this. Obviously, most people have the same thing. They all feel the same things before doing something. The event's different. Like some people will be, if they're going go-kart racing, they get butterflies in their stomach. They're nervous about crashing. They're this and that, rah, rah, rah. The challenges will be you still get the same feelings beforehand, regardless of whether it's I'm going to run a marathon or you're going to go to a Hare Krishna weekend or whatever. There's a heads up. Well, when you're recording your face on that one.
I've sworn off vegan food, mate. I'm sorry. I can't get involved.
Already just giving a no. Like this bloke. We have day one already saying no to things. Very interesting. But so ideally if we get long-term goals, medium goals, spontaneous events, YouTube will be mainly for like snippets from the podcast, and then any challenges that we have. We'll try and film it. I think like you've got the Osmo 3. I think that thing will be perfect for doing most things.
Yeah.
We have all the mics for podcast stuff, but how we go with that. Are you going to be good to turn up and film some things if you're free?
Yeah, so I reckon if we're planning one event a month and we're putting out one event YouTube a month, that's pretty achievable for me. And then obviously all the snippets and stuff like that. If I'm not here, and it is the case that shift work, family life, it's to get here is a struggle, which is another thing. Like the challenge for me is actually just getting here in the first place and not fucking just bailing, saying, the kids, I can't make it today or whatever. But yeah, one event a month, YouTube, I can sign up to that. And we already discussed this previously, but with what I'm, with work and appearing on camera, it's a thing for me that I don't really want to do because it's just not something I want to do.
No, it's because you're a big deal, and
there's just this floating hat on the screen all the time. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so it makes it difficult to be the person that's the one being held accountable when there's no real content to create from it, unless I wear like a Lucha Libre mask or something like that.
I think it's a good dynamic though, because it's literally depicting like the challenge of being involved in these things and how hard it is if you're in any sort of service community to actually have your own identity. So I think it's fine, and we can work around that stuff easily.
But you're also like a producer is oftentimes the producer is behind the scenes, and like you say that's going to be hard to hold accountable. I'm like, no, it won't be, because Al and I have a microphone. And anytime you're not doing something we said, I'm like, Al and I will just sit here and shit talk you when you're not appearing. So
and you're right,
it's up for that.
It is a good reflection of probably what our community is going to be. People that want to be involved but not be like the front. So that was a good point.
And I'm gonna push the fringe of maybe what can and can't be done and see what some of the outcomes are. But it's a tough thing, is that a lot of us, with our friends or with our social media, we're very guarded on what we can and can't do and say.
Going forward, depending on how we go, we can probably get more into that. Like I'll talk to Samir. He's obviously a lawyer, so we can do the back and forth cop versus lawyer chat there. That's usually interesting because he is open to listening to the other side of it. But he also comes from a demographic where he used to love cruising around looking like a gangster in American as such was then getting pulled over by police. So he has an issue with us that way. But at the moment, he's now also well aware that nothing is actually as it seems. If you actually talk to somebody, things are not, we're humans on both sides of that thing. So I think hot topics will be something we can get into. I mean, depending on where you want to go, I love tech, as you may have noticed by the amount of random stuff I have on the table that I have not used in a long time. And now you guys are like, wow, we've got heaps of microphones, we've got a podcast thing and whatever else. Thank you guys. Thanks. I'm getting better with these buttons. I haven't even written them down. I still wasted 3 of them.
To challenge him to not be a consumer for 30 days or something.
Yeah.
Can't buy anything off online shopping.
Well, my wage actually has done that for you. So my taxable income last year was 26,000. I've just noticed, so that was really exciting.
We'll do like a reverse Mr. Beast. We give you $10,000 in a briefcase, and you can't spend $1 for 30 days.
Yeah. That'd be putrid. But yeah, so hot topics, any sort of reviews that come up. Like if you do the Osmo thing, I don't know, 40-year-old white males from Australia might be interested in that. It may just be 3 people watching and it's just the 3 of us from here as per our podcast. But I'm open to doing a whole bunch of random stuff because people talk about niches and stuff. It's like, well, there's 3 of us that have different interests at the moment. And it's like, well, what's that? Do we really need to niche down at the moment, or is that niche who we are and where we've come from?
Yeah, I think we need to definitely be in an exploratory phase in the beginning. But, views and that sort of thing will tell us what we need to do, or you do those sort of things in a short, and if some subscribers don't like it, then they just swap through the short. Like, I don't think that really matters. But
I think for us, doing what we want to do and what's fun for us is probably going to be fun for others, and then that will turn into views and all that kind of stuff. But if we're doing this for the fun of it, which is what we're really doing now, you can tell obviously it's
and doing what we haven't been allowed to do.
Exactly. Press the button.
I didn't actually know what that was going to be, but it did well.
The thumb was hovering. I thought, just go for it. I don't want to leave him hanging. But yeah, I think that's what's going to resonate with people. I think that's what we'll find out if people are interested in or not. And then we can, like you said, we're exploring where we're really challenging ourselves right now and even doing this podcast and, getting on YouTube. Like it's not it's kind of my generation, but not really. YouTube.
You just called us old. Is that what he's doing? I feel like you just called us old.
We in different generations, are we?
1990.
What's the imposter gap?
I think Imposters spreads the whole span of people all over the place, but obviously tech savvy younger people would be better at it. Like you wouldn't have not have a mobile phone.
I grew up without a mobile phone.
Yeah, but somebody would have had one that was pretty easy.
Yeah.
Like I was around when they actually came out. It was like, and they were like a brick that was, you would attach, you still had a cord on the phone and stuff.
Yeah, I think my first phone was maybe like a 3310, one of those Motorola Razrs, like you get like a 1 megapixel, not even. And you're like, wow.
Your first phone had a camera?
Yeah, I know.
No, the 3310 didn't.
No, but it had nibbles. Did you ever have a TV that you had to whack to stop the screen going up and down?
Rabbit antennas and all that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Did you ever stand in the hallway on the cord phone and have to call up a girl and ask her parents if you could speak to her?
I was probably too young to be honest. Like
that was tough.
But definitely the old Telstra phones. Have you seen those? Like, there's a lot of these like nostalgias, 90s pages and stuff on Instagram. Fuck, they hits the feels. Like Cheese TV in the morning.
Oh yeah, Cheese TV.
Yeah. Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, but
I was Looney Tunes, mate. We didn't have any of that stuff when I was
That's what I'm
growing
saying. So there's a generational gap there.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, we may not be able to communicate sometimes. We'll have to explain things to each other.
Yeah.
Like TikTok. I've no idea what's going on with TikTok.
Yeah, tic-tac-toe.
Yeah. And yet you're all about it. You're like, watch this one and watch this one. I'm like, okay. But, So is there anything what else have we got?
Well, we'll have some interviews coming up, and I wondered whether, a lot of people will do the sort of walking through people's whole life or what our way of coming about it is, and I wondered that we've come upon this imposters thing. So is our method just simply they can think of the things that have made them an imposter, and we'll walk through their life chronologically with their imposter moments, but also what, as starting as an imposter, where they ended up with each of those experiences.
Do you want to, being that this is, we've obviously recorded something about imposter syndrome beforehand, but if this is going to be our first one, do you want to just run through quickly what imposter syndrome is?
Yeah, well, we've kind of come about that as the title because would you say it's why the three of us have kind of come together? That was the overriding
you and me and the Yu-Yangs
vibe. Yeah.
Doing the stand easy thing, it was a topic of conversation a lot of the time.
And I think too, maybe we've all been a little bit surprised. I know I have been with other colleagues particularly when you've moved on from a role, you realise that everybody else felt like an imposter as well, but no one really talks about it at the time. Imposter syndrome essentially is a fear that you're not enough, and it's a lot of self-reflection of whether you believe that you've earned a role or a place in the world. And you kind of, in a sense, anybody that does reflect whether they're an imposter probably is not an imposter. And who did we mention this morning, Berso? I can't remember. But if someone doesn't think they're an imposter, then they probably are too egotistical or actually haven't deserved that role as well.
Yeah, you were saying that I can't remember.
Who was it?
I don't know that we need to name drop anyone anyway on here.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Basically, it was like you got two people. You've either got people with imposter syndrome and then you've actually got imposters. So there's like some people that rock up and you're like, why is this person here? This person is useless at their job and they think that they are the best thing. And you're like, are they faking it till they make it? And like, because a lot of the time you're like, no, they actually seem to think that they are above the grade and they are very substandard. And you're like, that's an actual, well done, mate.
That was
well
me.
Done.
Hand up.
We're going to have a audio jar for little bumps and clumps.
Complete ownership.
Yeah.
And I think the overriding message as well will be, if people are young and they're coming up, is that everybody that you aspire to be, if you admire them, they have probably felt like an imposter at all stages of their life, but they've just put themselves forward and they've kept having a crack and kept being judged by what they're doing. So, don't worry about feeling like an imposter. It's just part of the journey.
There's I'm just looking it up now. It says there's 5 types of imposter syndrome.
Ooh.
We're going to delve into this with a psychologist in the future. And it says there's the perfectionist, the superwoman / man. There's probably more there. I don't want to get too bent up in that. I'm going to cancel myself real quick.
The super person.
The natural genius, the soloist, and the expert. I know what they are. We'll talk about them later on. I don't want to get swept up in it at the moment. But when Woon comes on, we'll probably get more into it. He's super keen. As soon as I
think
mention
psychologically it can be looked on as a negative trait. Like it's a bit of a anxiety kind of thing. But I think if you're in a professional realm and you are putting yourself out there and you're achieving things, it's a positive quality. It just means that you're self-reflective, and it's pretty much by definition, like you said, if you feel like an imposter, you probably should be there. If you never consider whether you're an imposter, you shouldn't be there.
Have you you mentioned Jordan Peterson before. I was watching a thing on YouTube with him about it, and it goes like the more you know, the less you actually tell other people you know, sort of thing. So it's like at the start you're like, oh, I'm really good at this, and then the more you learn, the more experience you get, you're like, oh, I actually don't know anywhere near as much as I thought. So you actually stop thinking you're a subject matter expert. So then the graph goes from at the start is like where you think your knowledge is versus where your knowledge is, and then as your confidence goes, like you start learning more and more stuff and you're like, oh, there's so much stuff I don't know. You're actually less likely to pretend that you should be the leader and that sort of stuff. That's where it gets weird, because your imposter syndrome obviously comes in because you're like, oh, I've done 15 years in this, but I'm still learning so much. When in reality, you're probably actually a subject matter expert, but you don't feel like you are. Whereas when you finish a course and you do something 8 weeks in, you're like, I'm the king. Like I was best on course, you know, like I was student of merit, or I was whatever else it is. And you're like, yeah, that's right, I'm all that. And then you get to a unit and you're like, got all this bravado cruising around, and then the rest of the people are like, oh, yeah, mate. And that's where hazing used to be a great thing, but obviously we can't do that either now. Although we'll bring, I think
it had its purpose.
Yeah, we'll bring that in for the pod. I reckon we'll bring hazing and bastardization back.
We had in the tourism job I did many years ago, there was a saying which is probably overarching, but it was like a cocky second year. So, you keep your head down, you're learning in the first year, you come back for your second season and you think you've learned everything and you're telling everyone else how it is. And then you get to your third and fourth years and they're the sort of quiet people that are actually just mentoring people behind the scenes.
Do you reckon it's about fear of being judged by your peers? So you have to put on a bravado, a facade of, and then you fall into that trap of thinking, because I don't know enough, I'm an imposter, so I have to project that I know everything to then, because you think people are judging you because you don't know anything. So then you're just pretending to know everything, and then you've fallen into this trap. And then everyone starts hating on you because they think it's fucking cocky second year. All that kind of stuff. We have the same.
Well, I think it's funny, like with our one, it's like when you're like you're starting out in the job, you really don't know that much stuff, right? But you're enthusiastic and you're going out there and you're like having a crack at it. Whereas then the more years you get in there, anybody who's done more years than you is like, come on, mate, pull your head in. So it's like, if you've done 10 years, it's not really that long for someone who's done 20, like, and they're like, oh, these bloody upstarts, whereas we're looking at somebody who's 2 years in doing the same thing. So there's always somebody who's done more than you and knows more. And I find the further up the chain you go, it's sort of like with martial arts as well, I think, where if you do a white belt, they're like the most dangerous people because they've learned like 2 or 3 things and they're like, I'm going to use this all day, every day. And then you got a black belt and he's like, he will go out of his way to never use it. And I think it's sort of the same thing with most of the different stuff that we've been involved with the more you get along, the less likely you are to have confrontation and do whatever. You get better at talking about it because you're confident in your skills to do other things. And it's probably the same with being a tour guide or whatever else it is, where the more that you know about it, the less you feel you have to be overtly trying to prove to everybody that you do know things, because you just know it now and you're just like, cool, whatever.
And another good teaching point from that is when you start, so you do a training trip, it's actually very intensive and like a high attrition rate through the training for that. But then you're told when you run your first tour, you have to tell the clients it's your first tour of your second season. And it's a lie, but it was for credibility, because if someone's paid $7,000 for a tour, they don't want to turn up and have a first-timer taking them around Europe. But the system worked so well that they believed it was your second season. But that was about credibility. It was kind of a way to override the imposter so that you felt that you were professional and you had to live up to that lie.
And Kentucky's just been found out. They're full of it. They were lying. All your tour guides were first years.
Yeah, and you do come clean at the end, and it's quite amusing because you literally have people saying, no, but you knew this and you did this, and it was all from the training trip. It's all scripts. It's all in my diary. Like, from doing one trip as a training trip, you could convince people that you'd done a whole season of it before. But, as young tour guides, that system, I probably didn't feel like an imposter there because I'd been given so much training and like a forced sense of credibility. So it was an interesting kind of backdoor way of doing it.
On a side note, I just had a brilliant idea. Imposter camp.
Go on.
Getting some of the boys away. We go on a camp. We, sit by the fire. We've got a tour guide here. We've got a motivational speaker here. I'm the other dude. Just to make it not Brokeback Mountain-ish.
That doesn't fix it. You know that, yeah? You can have a Brokeback Mountain with 3 dudes. Just play connectables.
How does that work? Can you explain that to me?
Can you just reflect just for a second that you just asked how that works and that we should segue away from this immediately?
Anyway, I like it.
You like that one?
Resilience camp, resilience retreats, resilience, team
long-term
building.
goal, but that ties into what we're trying to do with supporting men, their mental health, turning away from suicide.
It doesn't just have to be men. Like, anybody can go out and about. We are certainly highly.
I think my wife would disagree.
What?
She'd be like, "You're going camping with girls?" No.
Oh, no. I meant as in, like, you're like, we're trying to work on stuff for men. I'm like,
yeah. Well, that's all we've spoken about this whole pod, right?
But
40-year-old men.
Well, obviously, we're 3 dudes hanging around, but I'm not. Like the same stuff, no doubt, would happen for women. Where they get to a certain age and they stop doing whatever, especially like single mums, for example, would probably be very isolated and not likely to put themselves out there. And then their kid turns 18 and they're like, what have I been doing with my life? I've spent the whole time working 2 jobs trying to run it and do whatever. So I dare say imposter syndrome takes place for everybody, but camps would be interesting. But I'd like to see different events going on where and this would obviously be if you do get some sort of following, but if they're like, hey, we're actually going to a rodeo, old mate's having his first go on a bull, for example. You're like,
that would be epic. Yeah.
But again, we can go there, document, be the support for that person.
Or even just rock up and just watch and go, oh, remember that time old mate broke 3 collarbones in his leg? You're like, yeah, good challenge, boys, well done. But see, that'd be something too that'd be more long-term. Like, we can't just go and do a rodeo. But
we wouldn't, but we could support someone that could.
No, I know. Yeah, definitely. Whereas we could go and do one of those mechanical bulls somewhere. If they have
it's not just going to be things that you want to do, mate, all right?
I'm well aware. But it's also things that I want to watch Fedora do. And that'll be good times.
I've done one of those before.
Yeah, but you're probably more nimble and recovered better from it back in the day. Is there anything else we want to check on?
Well, yeah, so that's the concept of the imposter. And then, a lot of our guests are going to be based around people that have achieved things in their life, achieved mastery and stellar careers, but diving down on why they thought they were an imposter at the time and trying to break a bit of that, view from people that are coming up as to it's just normal. Everyone does feel like an imposter at some stages or many stages of their life.
I think to start off with, it'll probably be pretty veteran / first responder based. Just that's obviously the crowd that we hang out with. But I'd love to speak to veteran first responders who then got out and started stuff in corporate. We've got a mate of ours who was literally looking at getting out and he's now looking at joining again, and he really hates it. But he's like, he goes, oh, it was so much harder than I thought it was to get a job. Like was just left 2 days ago. So that'll be interesting to see what he's going through, because everyone who leaves goes through the same sort of thing, even though we don't talk about it. And a lot of the time, if you stay in the job versus when you're out, your conversations with people who are in the job, they're literally all they do is talk about their work. And then when you get out, you're like, well, there's heaps more stuff going on in the world, mate. Like, what else is there? And then it gets weird because there's a real gap then, because you go to a forward driving event and you sit around the fire and all they do is talk work. And I'm like,
we had a tradition at the Yangs where after you'd just met up in the car park, when we set off, we'd say, okay, you can't talk anything about your work now. And we'd throw out a few topics, you've got a four-wheel drive, you got pets and things like that. And it's so easy to talk about things that are not work if you just restrict the talk about work. But without that, you just descend into all that sort of negativity, biases and stuff. So it was an interesting experiment.
I was really impressed with that, actually, when we were in the car park and you said, right, guys, this is where the chat about work stops. From here, you talk about fishing, you talk about four-wheel driving, you talk about this, you talk about that. So if at any point somebody started going there, because inevitably they will be, they started going down that track, you'd be like, right, let's talk about something. And I was like, that's genius. So
it's kind of amusing too how easily you can manipulate people. That sounds bad, but everybody wants to vent. So I might just listen to you vent about something for a few minutes, and then it'd be like, oh yeah, tell me again about that bit that you just got on your four-wheel drive, and just instantly you or anyone else, they just circle back to it because that's what they're passionate about, and you'd actually notice them light up when you directed them back to a topic that was off work.
My favourite part was when you started going on about something.
Oh, yeah, I'm the worst through it.
And I was like, how's your YouTube channel coming along? And you looked at me and you went, yeah, fair call.
See, this is why I need to be accountable to others.
But it was funny that you knew straight away what I was doing. I was hardly subtle, but it's interesting when you do it. But then even like one of the other guys that we came away with, we're like, what hobbies do you have? And just looked at us blankly. And we're like, well, this is your job, mate. By the time you get there, your homework for this week is to actually get your own hobby that is not just work.
But in general, with that rule in place, how easy was it to talk for 2 hours to someone you'd known for years at work about their hobbies? Like the conversations were just endless because you're delving into something that you wouldn't do otherwise.
It was very interesting because it's actually easier to talk to people about stuff they don't know about. So like if you're going to talk to me about the newest iPhone that comes out, and I've not been an iPhone person for ages, and you're like, oh, well, they actually do this and this and this now. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting because I've never heard about it. Whereas if we're literally talking about the same job over and over again, it's pretty easy to just be depressed and get bitter and whatever because we're just talking about the same thing that's happened over and over again.
We tend to be default negative people as well.
Yeah, so like if someone's like, oh, I've started kayaking, and you're like, oh, that's amazing. Cool. Tell me, how does that work? Like, how much does it cost to get into it? Can you just get into it cheaply, or is it you literally have to spend $2,000 on a kayak, or is there inflatables, or are they legit, or whatever? There's heaps of stuff, and then because you don't know anything, now the questions are easier, and that's again coming back to the challenges. Where if you go into a challenge on the weekend, when you come back, I'm now interested because I'm like, what's that about? How's it work?
And do it as a challenge. Ask a friend about something they're passionate about with those simple questions you've just mentioned, and watch them light up when they talk about it. They'll talk endlessly if you ask them and genuinely listen to it. And then you might find yourself ending up as a kayaker.
Cool. Happy?
Happy.
You happy?
Happy.
Just doing knife hands at everybody to make sure, just people who know what.
Finish off with another Savvy.
Yeah. If we don't get sponsored by Savvy, I'm going to be very disappointed.
You know, with all the social medias too, you have to declare when it's a paid promotion. So,
well, we don't need to declare it just yet.
Voiceover.
Haven't been paid.
No, so
it's an audition for a paid promotion.
Yeah, he's actually a really good bloke though.
Australian owned.
Yeah, old mate was up at the Veteran Games. He was sponsoring us up there, so that was good times. It was fun. I'm not going to get into it. We're already 55 minutes into it.
That's not too bad. You got 4 minutes.
Well, I've got
took over an hour.
I've got 20 minutes still. I need to be on the road. But we come up to 55.
Cool.
We're happy.
So that was episode 2/19.
I think it's 1/, but like, yeah, it's definitely the fourth time we've been recording.
We'll get a chronology going at some stage.
Yeah, it's going to be all messed up.
It's just exploration.
Yeah. Maybe we should just do the standard intro. It's like, welcome to episode 149.
Mm.
And that's
have a really bad voiceover that just says the number.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we can.
Welcome to episode 409.
Yeah, you just get a really cheap AI robot voice over the top of it.
Siri on your phone.
Well, I don't have Siri.
Oh,
I think I got Bixby.
Alexa.
Nah,
they're all
Bixby's on
Samsung,
Samsung.
aren't they?
Yeah,
Bixby.
I don't know. Maybe we just get Fedora to do it.
oh, like Dale's 409.
I put myself on the spot there.
Right.
All right. Thanks for joining.
We happy?
Take us out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Al's favourite tune. I'm so upset that we have to run with the road generic tune.
But you know you're humming it as it goes now.
We'll upgrade eventually.
Will we?
Yeah.
All three of us are headbanging right now.
I actually really enjoy it now. Cheers, Road. You can sponsor us too. All the buttons.